Hello, welcome back to London Beautiful Life, and we're at Odeon Leicester Square for FrightFest 2024. Actually, yeah, how was it making this? Obviously, it was very interesting when it came to filming, because a lot of it was on Skype or Zoom.
Yeah, isolation. We shot a lot of it in isolation. It was quite interesting because the things that you're reacting to, they're not live, so you kind of lean heavily on Josephine Rose, who's our wonderful director, to kind of guide you as this guiding hand and help you give her what she wants. So yeah, she helped a lot.
How did you get involved in this project?
So I've known Jo since I was in drama school, and I remember briefly having a sort of meeting with her, and we just seemed to click and have the same mindset about how we want to make films and share our passion and love for filmmaking. So yeah, one day out of the blue, she was like, I have this really cool project that I would love you to be a part of, and I was like, sign me up.
What would you like audience to take away from this film, and also your character in the film?
I would like audience to take away from this film just cherishing your intimate relationships with your family and friends, because you never know what could happen at any time. You know, like, I think the pandemic showed all of us that our close relationships, physical close relationships with our family and friends, could be taken away at any moment, and suddenly you're wishing for that hug that you never gave or that thing you never said in person. So yeah, just always valuing your intimate relationships with your family and friends.
So quickly about the film, how did this project come about? How did you get involved?
So I met Mike Capes and Johnny Wickham at a Comic-Con in San Diego like 11 years ago, and we became friends, and then, you know, life happens, everything's going around. As many years later, I run into them at a birthday party, and they go, you know what, we've been working on this movie, the script I did, can we send it to you? We want you for the lead girl in this movie. And at the time, I'd been retired from acting for about 5 or 6 years, no plans on going back to it, and I had every intention of turning down this film, but I was like, I'm gonna read it though. So I read the script and I fell in love with it. I could not stop laughing, and I said yes. I said yes to this movie, and even though it had been quite many years since I'd really been on like a film set, I had the time of my life, and collaborating with them was some of the best times of my life. They're really wonderful to work with, really open to suggestion, and we really feel like we created a lot of great things together, and I hope that audiences love it.
What was your favorite scene without giving anything away?
Oh, okay. So this film is an homage to Steven Spielberg and all of his films, and mainly to Jurassic Park, but to other of his films too. And there's a sequence that's a little love letter to E.T., and I have to say that's sort of towards the beginning, and that's probably my favorite.
Was it a bit odd acting with an invisible, well, something invisible, technically nothing?
Oh no, he was there, and he was an asshole. The biggest diva on set. He's the only one that I kind of don't want to work with. I'm hoping we get another one for the sequel, because we could use a nicer Raptor next time.
So tell me, how did you get involved in this project? And tell me more about your character as well.
Yeah, so I actually met Damon, our director, at the National Film Awards last year. It was kind of like a meeting in passing, didn't think too much about it, and then I saw that he was casting for Never Have I Ever. So I reached out, I was like, hey, you know, this seems like a really great film, I love the sound of this character, like, would you be interested in me auditioning? Had a chat, and then I was cast in the role, and the rest is history.
So what would you think audience would take away from it? And what would you like audience to take away from it?
So at the end of the day, this film is a thriller, but I think there's really important messages at the core of this film. You know, the main character, Sam, he's struggling with grief. His wife, the character that I play, she's going through a lot, and she's a victim of DV, so I'm hoping that if there's any women out there who are going through something similar, they can maybe see something of themselves in the character, and maybe it'll help them to make different choices to get themselves out of a difficult situation.
And so tell me more about this project. How did it come about?
So the Invisible Raptor is a creature feature with absolutely no creature, and it came about in my mind at 3 a.m., one of those crazy ideas, it came into my head. I saw the film, I got together with a writing partner that I've written jokes with for 20 plus years. We wrote the script, and it's one of those things where you never know what's going to take off, what somebody's going to find and invest in and create. And that one just happened to be the one. So now we have an invisible dinosaur film that I'm very excited for everyone to see.
Was it challenging for it being invisible? Did that make it easier?
Good question, because we thought initially, the initial pitch that I told everyone involved was, let's make a creature feature with no creature, because then we don't have to spend money on visual effects. Save tons of money. Turns out when you're making an Invisible Man type of movie, there's actually quite a lot of physical gags that you have to do. And that actually takes a bit more work in some senses than just putting in a visual creature. So it was challenging, but so fun, because also within the screenplay, the challenge was, how do we show glimpses of it throughout the film and heighten those beats? And I think when people see the film, they'll see we had a lot of fun creating those visual moments.
So like you just mentioned, you're heavily involved in it. So what is your favourite part of doing this? Writing it, directing it, being in it?
Favorite part is shooting, because we had such a fun cast and crew, family and friends that helped. It was every day we were laughing till our stomachs hurt. We're doing a silly comedy about an invisible dinosaur, so you imagine everybody involved is just having a blast. So, and I really hope that translates, because we're all film lovers too. This movie is a big love letter to Steven Spielberg's 80s films. So everybody involved really brought that love of film to this movie, and I feel like that translates and resonates with audiences so far.
So without giving anything away, what is your favourite scene?
My favorite scene. Okay. God, I have a lot of them. I will say my favorite scene is when we get rid of a certain character, a child character. When we just get rid of a character by putting her in an Uber and sending her out of the movie. I think that's one of my favorite. I have never seen that in a film before, and I love that. And I also love the surveillance van scene that people will see when we discuss the science of the film and how invisible raptors were made.
So what would you like audience to take away from this film, and especially your cameo?
From the film as a whole, it's a kind of it's a feel-bad kitchen realist, kitchen sink drama, British realist film with a sort of nasty, violent element at the end. It's about the mixture of fantasy and reality, and you're looking at things with an unreliable narrator. And my role is I play a really nice person. Cast against type. I keep all my clothes on. Usually I'm a fat man in his underpants roles, but this one I keep all my clothes on, and I'm nice.
I've got two more quick questions. Obviously, we're asking people this week what horror franchise they'll be in, but obviously you're in a very popular one. What was that like in the Human Centipede franchise?
Well, it's fascinating because it was each of the films are very different. I mean, franchise films, you tend to think, oh, it's the same kind of template repeated with different elements sort of changed, whereas all three Human Centipede films are very different in tone and look. So yeah, I'm not. I know it technically is a franchise, but I think they're all very distinct films.
They're really fun to work on. Obviously, like, it's scary and it's horrific, like the whole storyline. But on set, were you like, was it loads of good banter?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, when we were making Human Centipede 2, I thought we'd made this splatter comedy because Tom keeps everything light on set, and then when you see it, it's kind of dark and black and white and grimy and this dark industrial soundtrack to it. It's a bit more bit more meaty, I think. Yeah. So yeah.
So tell me a bit more about your character and how you got involved in this project.
So I played Jasmine Price, the older sibling of Venus Price, the two leads in the film. I got involved. I actually was doing a one-woman show, and Parker came to see the one-woman show I was doing in Ohio, and he's like, "Oh, we have our lead. We haven't cast yet in our film Hauntology. Would you love to audition?" And I said yes, and here we are today.
Actually, that's a good question I've always wanted to know. What do you prefer, film or theatre? And what are the differences between them both?
I prefer, it's hard. I can't say which one I prefer. Whichever one that I'm doing at the moment. But you have to be prepared. I always like to say theater is a marathon, film is kind of more of a sprint. So you need both to be a successful and really good entertainer.
So how did you become Cinderella, and in this version?
Wow, well, my very dear friend Scott Chambers, who's an actor, director, producer, he cast me in the film. So yeah, I didn't have to tape for it or anything, no audition, so buzzing with that. Yeah, I was straight offer, so yeah, very exciting.
So to get into role, obviously we've all seen the classic film. Did you take any like inspiration from the classic film, or did you do like a completely full refresh?
Great question. So yeah, I grew up obviously watching Disney. I love Cinderella and all that, but obviously it's not the same kind of story. So I did so much. I'm such a horror fan, so I've watched so many horror films, but I did my research and I kind of wanted to think about the characters that I wanted to evolve. And I watched Carrie, the Stephen King Carrie, like Margot Robbie in Suicide Squad. I don't know if you know Nancy from The Craft. And I watched all characters that are really scary and like kind of psychotic and demonic. And I watched them and think what scares me about them. And I took parts of them that scared me and brought them into my character. But ultimately, I wanted to make it my own, so I didn't want to copy them or anything. But I just watched a lot of films and kind of took parts of them that I liked.
So actually, when I saw the trailer, there was a little hint of Carrie. So I have no idea how this is going to turn out. So I'm really intrigued to see it. But talking about like horror, demonic films, was there anything spooky that happened on set?
Yes. I mean, to be honest, I was so busy. I didn't have time to go ghost hunting. I worked, went to bed, and went back to work. But some people, they were like, we lived on set, so we were filming in Scotland in a massive mansion, like castle, and the cast and crew was telling me about that there was ghosts there, and they went ghost hunting in the middle of the night and stuff. I've heard a lot of stories, but I didn't personally experience that. I was too busy.
Tell me about your role and how did you get involved in this film?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I got an email from someone, I think it might have been Rob, he's one of the producers, inviting me to be a part of the cast. And when I learned about Venus and the character, I think that I really fell in love with them because I love playing relatable characters. So I think that it was more easy for me to fall into the role. Now the horror genre is something that I'm not experienced in, but it was really cool being comfortable in my character and making a backstory for them, and then getting to live it out in real life.
What would you say was your favourite scene to film? And you don't have to give anything too much away, but any little sneak peeks would be great.
There's a scene, if you watch the movie you know, but there's a scene where it's like heavy and purple lights, and I'm outside in the rain. I can't really get into too much detail because it will spoil the whole movie, but I really love that because it was supposed to be a drastic change of scenery and we had no idea it was going to rain that day, and it really definitely did emulsify the situation a ton, and it was actually raining and it was incredible. There's also a blood scene which was quite interesting, but that was something I'll never forget for sure.
About this film, I mean, you're very heavily involved, writer, director, producer and actor. What would you say was your most challenging role in all four positions and the funnest in this movie? Yeah,
I don't know, and it's just been, it's like you're constantly switching hats. It's like this guy, Kent Isaacs, he would do the sound, he would get to catering, he would do the producing. I go, Kent, you got to get in front of the camera, so again, it's rare that you could get a group of people that you like so much or you love so much and everybody's on the same wavelength. Everybody is going towards the same vision. There's no egos, it's rare. Sometimes I work on big projects and you're just trying to jump on a train that's moving and you do your part and you get out. This one is just we were writing and shooting and writing and shooting. The DP wasn't available, so then we'd have to wait 2 weeks, and then we come back. And in that time, I rewrote some more, and we brought in someone like Barbara Crampton, and then she did a part. So it's just been it's been a real blessing that I know so many of these talented people, and they all want to jump on board.
How did you become to get involved in this project? Was it solely your idea, or did you have it? Obviously, Cinderella's a massive film anyway. How did this all become a thing?
So I
actually work doing like micro-budget films for a company called ITN, and I was actually away doing another film, and because I've done so many movies and I knew the other investors of this film, they basically offered me the job, and I was like, okay, wow, that's so exciting, I would love to. And so then I basically wrapped that film and then came straight into this one.
So what do you reckon we can expect from this version of Cinderella?
From this version of Cinderella, I think that it's not going to go the way the fairy tale expects you to go. I think you can expect lots of blood, lots of gore, humiliation, pain, because life isn't a fairy tale, and so really it's got real life elements.
So tell me about your film. How did you become a part of this project, and tell me about your characters? I'll start with you.
So Mark Coleman's first feature film, Manfish, I played Tracy in that movie, so we know each other quite well. I've known him for a long time, and so just fortune really that Manfish happened to do well. It did really well on the circuit, and so then people were like, oh, would you like to have a bit of money to make another film? And then he was like, Emma, I've written you in for this, and I was just like, okay, thank you very much. Is it someone nice this time? Is it someone kind? Is it someone pretty? And he was like, no, she's a manky old woman that starts the film murdering someone, and you'll be in bare feet or Crocs most of the time. So I was like, thank you. Thanks so much for thinking of me.
What about yourself?
I got involved because I'd actually never worked with Mark before. My agent sent me this script, and I just thought it was, am I allowed to swear? I just thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever read in my entire life, and I was like, what is this? I need to do it. I'd never read anything like it. It was insane. There was lots and lots of silly men, and a very, actually, I think, put together young woman who I play, Daisy, who is a goth, and she is moody and she is headstrong, but she ultimately knows the best thing to do, unlike her silly dad Dean, who is 50 and stripping and thinks it's going to make him a lot of money.
So what would you say is your highs and lows on set? I'll start with you.
Highs and lows on set. One very funny moment that we had on set was, I'm trying to think how I can do this without spoilers. There's a moment where Mark's character, he is one of the strippers, and he is affronted with something, and his reaction was like that of a 10-year-old girl, and it was so funny. I was trying so hard not to laugh. As soon as Mark yelled cut, I was like we were all like dying on set. It was so funny. But just the whole thing really, like the whole thing, because the film is kind of, you know, about these strippers. They go to this place to fight they don't know, but there are witches there, and they go on this journey. It kind of felt like a roller coaster while we were filming it, as well as the plot. But low lights, I think, would be, I did a scene with a snake. I won't reveal how or why.
What type of snake was it?
Well, it was, what kind of snake was it?
A long one.
A long one. But I want to say a python, but it wouldn't have been, would it? It was very long, very thick, and it was brown and scaly.
I feel like that would be a python. Plus, it's the safest one to have on set as well.
Yeah, I think it was a python. I second guessed myself.
Whipping out the constrictors for you.
Yeah.
For
it's actually a boa constrictor. I'm talking to you from the grave right now. That was, I was really proud of myself, but I was scared doing that. So that was maybe a low light challenge.
What about yourself?
You conquered though, you're still standing.
I'm still standing.
For me, highlight was getting on set. For me, I've got 2 kids at home, so once they're sorted and I come onto set, to be around other adults with the same sense of humour as me, just felt it was a totally different way of feeling like you're coming home, and that sounds really corny, but I feel like maybe on the inside I am a 50-year-old man, and that's the kind of environment that I want to be in. They share my humour, so for me, the highs was just the crying with laughter all the time, for weeks. You know, you can't beat that. And for me, the low was definitely being fitted in a wig, and the filth that was piled onto me makeup-wise. And once they actually lost me on set because the wig gave me a migraine, so I was like laying down on the bar, across the bar stools in a working men's club.
It looked like
and
a
they were
heavy
like, where is Emma? and it's because I was conked out for wearing the wig for so long.
Did your kids find your costumes funny at all? What do they think of it?
To be honest, coming home the utter state that I came home with, I'm surprised that I'm still married, because sometimes I came home, laughed at myself in the mirror, and that was after the girls had done all the work to take a lot of it off. Like, what was left was just horrific. That was a horror in itself, as me getting into my pyjamas with like grey and black and mud and tattoos and glue, and yeah, it was pretty horrific. So I would say that part of it was the low for me. Yeah.
About the film, how did you get involved in this? Like, and why did you want to do this?
So I answered an ad in Backstage.com, which is a famous magazine. It's actually based in New York. It's a casting magazine, and buddy texted me, and then we had a phone call, a video phone call, and he told me what the character he wanted me to play was. I actually auditioned for another character. I didn't get that one. And he told me about my character Henry and what happens to him and what he is. After he told me, after laughing for about 10 to 15 minutes, I said, Mike, of course I have to do this. This is the funniest thing I've ever heard in a while. So, and then he's like, you're hired. Yeah.
That's actually a really interesting question I wanted to ask, actually. So when actors do go for a certain role and then it switches to another role, is there any disappointment in that, or do you think, okay, actually I've got a challenge, I'm up for the challenge?
For me, and I'm only talking about me, I don't get disappointed. It depends on, do I want to, depends on the project. If it's a project like this and I get a better role than what I was going for, then yeah. If it's like a role where it's just kind of a cameo or a kind of supporting, and I'm not a big fan of the script, it's always script first for me. And if it's not controversial, if it's like just something, which it's happened to me before, where something is completely controversial, they want me to say all sorts of things, and no, because I know your project's not going to go anywhere. This, yes, because this has a following. Mutilator has an amazing European following, a worldwide following for that matter, and I'd be dumb to say no. And I mean, I have problems, but no. But as an actor, it always comes down to what is the project going to do for me, and will people want to watch me in that project? Yeah, that's basically how I pick my stuff.
So tell me a bit more about your character and how you became a part of this project.
So Sean is the lead role in Protein. Protein was written and directed by Tony Burke. Back in 2013, I auditioned for a short film called Protein, written by a guy called Tony Burke. Got the job. We made the short film. I said to him, I think there's some legs in this. You should make a feature. Well, he doesn't mess about. 10 years later, here we are. And Sean is an ex-squaddy, loner, drifter, returns home to Wales from the army, having served in a war zone. Comes back damaged, and long story short, kills and eats a local drug dealer for his protein, and in doing so, inadvertently starts a local turf war between rival drug gangs.
So when it came to the filming side, what were the highs and what were the lows of filming? Or we could rephrase it, highlights and I don't know the opposites of that. But yeah.
No, this one is an easy one to answer because we made the film during lockdown. So we went into pre-production. The first lockdown hit. We lost all our funding. That lockdown eased. We raised the money again. We went into pre-production again. The second lockdown hit. We lost all our money again. That lockdown eased, so we raised the money for the third time, and then we started shooting as soon as we were legally allowed. And because of the conditions at the time, we just surrounded ourselves with people we loved, admired, and trusted. So every day I was working with some of my oldest, bestest friends in the world, who also happen to be the most wonderful actors, many of whom are here today. And so that was a pleasure, working on a project that Tony and I had been trying to get off the ground for a decade. Well, now it's a decade. Back then it wasn't quite that long. And it was just magic. And because you remember what it's like in lockdown, you go from feeling so stifled to suddenly like you can breathe again. And not only were we breathing, we felt like we were creating something exciting that we hope people will enjoy. And so far, the early signs from a couple of industry screenings we've had, all private stuff, the public haven't seen it yet, the signs have been good. So this is our first time to show the movie to the world. And what better place to do it?
And what was your favourite scene to film? Is it the gory scene?
Wow. I got to do a lot of gory stuff in the movie. Basically eating people. And that was good fun.
Did you actually eat? Or did you just pretend to eat?
Oh, yeah. So it was, they got meat from the butcher. So I actually ate beef, raw beef. Yeah, they very kindly got some organic meat. So, because that's better raw.
Did you get fall ill from that?
No, I didn't. No, and then they made me these shakes, which in the story I'd make protein shakes out of people, and they were made with watermelon and stuff like that. And it sounds weird, but because of the colour of watermelon mixed with like an oat milk or whatever it was, it was disgusting. And there was lots of me. They got an actual real life offal for me to root around in and rummage around in. So there was lots of gruesome stuff, which I really enjoyed.
So how did this all come about? How did you start this film?
We've basically been working on it for the last 3 years. I started the production company in October of 2021. Had a film idea during COVID, just seeing my hometown where I grew up being essentially a ghost town. Started coming up with ideas about how that might have happened in a different world, and the film sort of came from there. But it was tough going. We didn't have any money. Shot about a third of the film and then used that to fundraise for the next block, and then did again, fundraised again, and finally 3 weeks of filming across 1 year with little to no money. Yeah. So
when it came to like casting, how did you find the perfect cast for this?
Well, I wrote some of the characters with cast in mind. I've done a bit of acting myself. I do a little bit in the film, not too much because I wanted to focus on my role as director and writer and producer. But yeah, so I knew Bethany from Amateur Dramatics from when we were kids, and then Emma and Ellen, who play Erin and Mia respectively. I've worked with them as actors together. Catherine as Rian on the lead is a bit serendipitous actually. My friend who had just graduated from drama school asked if we were going to meet up for lunch anyway, why don't we go and have lunch where his friend was working after graduating, and that's when I met Catherine, and it just fell into place. That was Rian walking in and serving us.
So how did you become a part of this project? Like, what made you want to do this project?
Well, I made a film before this called Humps, which was a mockumentary about the Bow Ness Monster, which is a sort of the Lake District equivalent of the Loch Ness Monster. And then we had the lockdown, and a theatre who sort of showed my first film, they sort of started off investing to make the Freaks of Fancy. They sort of invested a little bit of money. And I wanted to make a sort of psychological gothic horror film set in the 1920s because I love the 1920s look, the aesthetic. And I thought, well, a gothic horror with an Art Deco sort of veneer. And that was the sort of fetal sort of origins of it, if you will.
What would you say was the highlight and actually the most challenging part when it came to filming?
The challenging part, well, we were filming across the world remotely, so the really challenging part was finding the right people in each country. So we shot in South Africa, in the US, in Hong Kong, in China, in Thailand. We were shooting all over the place. And you speak to a lot of people in those countries in order to find the right people. And we were so lucky to find amazing people in each country. And so we were, on Zoom directing everything. And we had Jerry Fassbender, our director of photography, giving all the camera spec and directing the camera. But it was finding the right people. As soon as we had the right people, it was just joyous. But just finding the right people was challenging.
If you could sum this film up in 3 words, how would you sum it up? Or maybe 6 words. So that could include like the and a as well.
Okay. I mean, I'd like to say box office gold. 3 words. I don't know. You've really stumped me there. I don't know.
All right, okay.
No, I mean, I hope I'm going to use more than 3 words, but I hope it's a really fun genre film that picks up the themes of our time and in and of itself is a really entertaining film for audiences.
So Year 10, how did it come about? Obviously you're the writer and director, so what would you say was, this is kind of 2 questions in one, what would you say was the challenging part out of the 2 roles, and how did you think of the idea?
The more challenging, I suppose, there's a bit of a story to this film. So it began with a short film, which I made at least 10 years ago now, which is essentially the same premise. And I didn't consider that as a potential candidate for a feature film. Initially, I thought that the premise was too simple and it wouldn't stretch to a feature film length. But then during COVID, I started thinking about post-apocalyptic scenarios, and I had a look again at that project, and eventually it became the script for year 10. So the writing itself wasn't that difficult, actually. I just had to put the time in because I already had a rough structure for the story. The directing, well, we were on quite a relatively small budget for this kind of film, so it was quite challenging. There were some quite severe limitations that we had to work within, but we also had some really good luck. We found this amazing location in Somerset. We stayed on this converted farmhouse, and we had all of our locations within about a 5 or 10 minute walk. So that just made the whole filming of the exterior locations much more feasible than it would have been if we'd had to go pop around from location to location.
When it came to casting, how did you find the perfect cast for this?
I actually went through one of, I think it is at Spotlight, I went through one of the online books. We didn't use a casting director, partly because we were making this during COVID and auditions weren't going to be possible. So I just went through pretty much everybody on Spotlight and narrowed it down to a long list, then a short list. And I did do meetings through Zoom. Not really auditions though, because there's no dialogue in the film, so it was quite difficult to actually audition for it. It's more looking at people's reels and then just having a conversation with them, and did it like that, yeah.
So how did you become a part of this project? How did that all come about?
Well, I got the kind of offer through my agent, and then I saw Ben's short movie that he did with Toby on YouTube, and I was really drawn into the amazing kinetic style he's got of shooting. It looked amazing, so that drew me in, and also the fact that there was no dialogue in the movie. It's just great.
When it came to obviously the filming part, I know it was during lockdown. Was it quite nice to see people again and be in that COVID bubble kind of thing?
We were in a bubble, yeah. It was winter time down in the West Country. It was very kind of guerrilla filmmaking, so it was fantastic, and that really builds up a kind of tight community when you're filming as well. So you film all day, eat together.
I did a TV show during lockdown where we had a bubble. I caught COVID, which was great because I watched football before doing the shoot, and I had to be isolated for 11 days. However, it was nice to be in that bubble, but it was weird when I saw people out when we finished, and I saw people again.
Yeah. You have enough of them at the end of it. You want to get out of that bubble by the end of it for sure. But I just think it really works for this kind of movie as well. That kind of intense, locked-in experience really helped with the kind of dynamic of the movie.
So tell me about this project. How did you become a part of this project and get involved in it?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it short. So there was somebody that was cast in this part. Something happened and the gentleman couldn't do it. So there was an emergency call out to agents and people, and there was a wonderful actor in Los Angeles. The script came across his desk, and he said, I know a guy. You got to see this guy. So that guy was me. So I feel so blessed and very fortunate that they approached me and said, hey, we'd love for you to read the script. I read it. I loved it. We talked. We shot some stuff together. And in 3 weeks, I was working on 96 pages of dialogue. So it was pretty freaking crazy. What a beautiful thing, man. It was so cool.
Without giving anything away, what was your favourite scene to film, and what was it like filming with basically air?
Okay, so I'm going to do a double answer to that question. So I won't give away too much, but there's a scene in the film where me and the other two lead actors are carrying the invisible Raptor. That was my favorite scene. I mean, it's all, going back to our acting basics, it's all mime, so it's a brilliant moment in the film, and I think people are going to love it. Very cool.
Tell me how you got involved in this project.
So I had recently graduated from drama school, and Elliott, the director, came into the cafe that I was working in, and he was with another colleague of mine from drama school, Erwan, who's also in Scopophobia, and he had, I think, pretty much had cast all of the other main characters in the film, all of the other girls, so you were cast, so this was all happening, but he hadn't cast Rian on yet. So he came into the cafe, we met, and suddenly he turned to Erwan and said, Catherine, she went to drama school with you, how is that? How is she? And then we had a Zoom call when I was in Swansea and Elliott was in America, and then we read a bit of the script together, and one thing led to another, and I was cast as Rhiannon, and I'm so grateful that this happened.
As Catherine said, my story is a little bit different. Elliott, the director, and I were very good friends in school. We also did a lot of Amdram together, so basically he'd seen me work in a weird way, and he said, I've got this script, Beth, and this character was written with you in mind from when I knew you in school. So I took that on board, read the script, he nailed it, very much me in school. I'm very much a different person now, but so that's what excited me most about it. Yeah.
Can you tell me how you got involved in this project and what drew you to this project?
Funny story. So me and my mum, we were reading the paper, and a gentleman called Elliott, Léon, director, had written something for the paper about wanting to make this film on a shoestring, and I thought, this, a 1920s gothic horror, he wants to film it like it is, we are in the 1920s, is this man mad? Possibly. I'm going to email him. So I emailed him and said, listen, this sounds great, I'm interested. We met up, had a coffee, done a really quick screen test, and then we met back up again, and he sent me this like big envelope full of pictures of like Frida Bar and like loads of old-fashioned 1920s stunning actresses, and I was like, oh, I'm sweating now, that I'm a bit worried. So he said, this is the character and this is the script, what do you think? And I thought, this is mad, I love it, let's do it. And haven't looked back really. 1920s gothic horror, let's go.
Where did you guys film it?
We filmed mostly up north in the Lake District, Kendal, Windermere, Ambleside, mostly up north really. Very beautiful, and all the buildings were like really old and stunning, so it was an honour really.
And also I can hear a northern twang, so I'm assuming not too far from home.
I'm from, you come on now, I'm from Liverpool. I don't sound Scouse in the film though, don't worry, there's no Scouse in it. I had to like wipe that away. But yeah, originally from Liverpool.
Tell me how you became a part of this project and more about your character.
Well, my very good friend here, Craig Russell, who's the star, incredible. We've done a few films together, and we've known each other since I think I was 15, and we've worked together in the business for a while, and this project came up that he'd obviously worked on a while ago with lovely Tony, and they just asked me to audition for this part of Katrina, thinking that I might be a good fit, and so the rest is history. Yeah, that's how it came about, and I fell in love with the script straight away because it's so well fleshed out and a really good narrative. Set in Wales, obviously, that was fantastic, working with some other friends I knew and colleagues that I've always wanted to work with, so it was a no-brainer for me. And then I did have an affinity with Katrina, it just felt right. I really wanted to kind of find out more about her from what I'd read in the script and do her justice.
Are you excited to see yourself on the Odeon Cinema Luxe, Leicester Square? I mean, it's the biggest and the most famous cinema in the world.
Oh my god, is it? I mean, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I'm so... the amount of time I've come here and seen things, I've lived here 23 years, so, going into the cinemas back down there, I mean, this is just incredible. I'm over the moon. I'm just here to enjoy it. This is brilliant.
So can you guys tell me about your characters and how you guys got involved in this project? And I'll start with you.
So I worked with Elliott on a proof of concept film back in 2019, I'm tempted to say. So it was a while ago, and then he messaged me about 6 months later saying, I have this part that you'd be perfect for, and I once reading it I was quite offended because I was like, oh, thanks for that, she's nuts. He was right, but yeah, so I just turned up, we had a bit of a read through, I absolutely fell in love with the character. She really gets what she deserves. I'm all for justice, so that was brilliant. And yeah, I just absolutely love the script. I love the way that he's written these four powerful women and their relationship with one another, and it's it just worked. Like when you read something, and I know that it's quite cliche to say, but when you read something, it's kind of like, oh, okay, there's something with this, and this was it. So myself and Elliott, the director, had worked together on a music video previously before he came to me with this, and he sent me the script, and I read it and absolutely loved it, and I couldn't put it down because I just didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know what was going to happen, and it had been a long time since I'd read something like that, which I literally didn't want to put it down. And so when he said that he wanted me to play Mia and that he had me in mind for it from the start, I was like, playing an absolute, unraveling nutter is... She's lovely. What are you on about? Yeah, it's a bit of me. But I think there's something about Mia which speaks to the insecure kind of falseness thing that people struggle with as teenagers quite a lot, and I think that being able to play that was quite cathartic, to get all that kind of teenage like angst and fakeness, just get it all out. It was really cathartic, yeah.
So tell me how you got involved in it. How did that all start?
So I got involved because my brother directed it, Ben. So yeah, he cast me because we'd shot a short film when I was quite a bit younger, which this feature was based on the short film. So basically, he just wanted someone that he could, throw around the woods and abuse without any legal action taking place afterwards. Yeah.
So for people that haven't seen it, how would you describe the film?
It's a pretty relentless action apocalypse thriller. Yeah.
Was there any challenging or what's your highlights and challenging moments of filming?
Challenging for me was physically, it was pretty tough. A lot of running in the winter with no clothes on. So yeah, just in my boxers and a t-shirt. But yeah, so barefoot when it's like -2 was pretty tough. Did get very, very cold one day where I was like, a couple more hours I would have been in the hospital, I think. Yeah. That's fine.
And what was it like? Obviously it was during the lockdown period, so was it fun being in that COVID bubble, seeing people again?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, in a way it was actually it benefited the film because I'm not sure it enabled it to get made in a way, because the location was affordable, because this farm where we stayed was sort of completely shut down. So yeah, it was really nice. I think everyone was quite pleased to be working because obviously no one had worked for a long time. And although everyone was on a bit of a deal rate-wise, yeah, it was nice atmosphere. It was good.
Have you ever had a screening at Odeon Leicester Square before?
Never had a screening at Odeon Leicester Square. I've had a screening at Curzon Soho, which was one of my favourite cinemas when I was growing up. I used to see a lot of films there when I was kind of getting into film. But no, not here. I mean, this is like the ultimate, isn't it?
Well, it's one of the most famous in the world. But Curzon Soho is great as well. I love it there.
Yeah, but I mean, I have told literally everybody that I know that I've got a world premiere at Odeon Leicester Square.
You do?
I know.
We're all here for it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's in fact, I was sitting on an aeroplane this morning next to a man, and I told him all about it.
Well, Lenny Kravitz was here on Monday, and so was Selma Hayek.
Was it?
I saw them. I was upstairs, but I did see them.
Okay. Well, you've had quite the week. Lenny Kravitz, me.
You are the highlight.
Thank you.
So yeah, why do you think horror genre is so popular, especially now, because they're just pumping them out at the moment?
Why is horror genre so popular? I think it gives people, I think from a psychological point of view, it gives people very much an escape from their everyday lives. It gives people permission to feast on things which are completely inappropriate. I think also we live in a very kind of sensitized society now where nothing is really allowed. We're not allowed to say anything, we're not allowed to do anything, cameras are on us at all times. I think genre cinema, horror, is a real excuse or opportunity to indulge our dark side. And believe me, we all have one. No matter what social media says, we all have one. But it means you can indulge it without going to prison for it, which is a bonus.
Massive bonus, I completely agree. So tell me more about Protein. How did you think of the idea, and how did it all come about, really?
Well, the idea for Protein originated probably in about 2011, 2012. I was in a gym. The chief premise behind the protein short film was man can't afford protein supplements, so eats people who can afford protein supplements. That was kind of essentially the one-liner of logic. And then we made a short film, which we finished in 2014, I think. And then we went off and did other things. I made more films and short films and music videos and commercials. And we decided we would, for some crazy reason, make a feature film, which is a bit like running a marathon or having a baby. If you knew how hard it would be, you wouldn't do it. And then when you finished it, you want to do another one. So, it's been a 12-year sort of life of protein as an idea. It went from me sitting in a gym wondering what it would be like if you couldn't afford protein supplements to actually eat people, the man on the machine next door to me, to here we are, Odeon Leicester Square, premiere of feature film. So there's one hell of a journey.
So about your film, how did you get involved in it? Tell me more about your character.
How I got involved in this film was kind of unique to me. You know, Damon, the director, came to FrightFest last year and saw my movie Law and literally contacted me on social media and said, I thought you were incredible. I'd love you to play the lead role in my film that I've just wrote. And it went from there. So I read the script, I loved it. He needed me to shoot in January, I couldn't, so we had to bring it forward to December. It was all like, everybody just kind of went, let's do this now. So yeah, and then we did it, we shot it in December, so that was brilliant.
So when you were on set, what was it like? What were their highs and lows? What would you say is the most challenging part?
Highs and lows of being on set. Highs, always lunchtime, and rap, always. I've been in the industry so long now, like God, since I was 7 years old, and I'm now 44, so it's been a while. So yeah, it is very much a job to me, but it's a film like Never Have I Ever with Damon at the helm. You know, that kindness and that loveliness filters down from this man. She's not very happy about that. And it goes through the entire crew and the cast, and it was just such a pleasure to be on board. And literally, he was like, you need to jump, and I was like, how high, So
for aspiring actors for their future career, what advice would you give them, like the do's and don'ts on set?
Aspiring actors? Oh God. Well, I didn't come of it the normal way. I didn't go to drama school. I was a pretty poor kid. Grew up in Bradford, who went to an after-school class once a week that cost £1 to do some improvisation. So, but it doesn't mean you can't, strive forward. I kept pushing forward. I kept pushing on the door. The door sometimes it feels like it's never going to open, but you keep pushing. It's the people that stop pushing that don't make it. And what is making it? I don't want to make it. I don't want to be some big Hollywood actor at all. I've got no interest in that. What I want to do is creative things that I like, that pay my mortgage, that make me happy, and I'm fine with that. Like set where you want to be. Some people want to be those big, Hollywood stars, and that's fantastic. But everybody's journey is different. But you totally missed the camera. Sorry, I got accosted.
Your film, Cara, how did that come about? How did you get involved in the project?
I had worked with the casting director before, and Jaidyn, the director, had said that he wanted someone with long, dark, curly hair, and she was like, oh, I know someone. And that's kind of basically how it started. That's how I got involved. I self-taped, auditioned, and then I did the in-person, and yeah, it just went from there.
So whereabouts did you film? Was it in England?
We filmed in Manchester. Yeah.
That's really cool. I've worked there many a times, and I always really enjoy it when I go up there. So how long was filming, and also what were your highs and lows of filming?
Filming was about 15 days, I think, something around that. Highs and lows. So highs were, it's just amazing to be in like almost every scene. Like it was a challenge, but it was such an amazing challenge. It was probably the first time that I've been so intensely involved. First time I played a title role, so that was amazing. Lows is probably connected. It was just very challenging for that reason. It's intense. It deals with like very intense themes. So that was a challenge personally, but I would say like on the whole, like it's all positive. It's all a good acting challenge. So
Without giving anything away, what would you say is going to be the best scene, or like one of the best scenes? So it doesn't have to be the best scene that gives the plot away.
yeah. Okay, without giving anything away, there is a scene that's sort of like I would say the climax of Cara's story. Arguably the climax of Cara's story. I don't want to say too much because I'm going to give it away, but you'll know what I mean when you watch the film.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I am bricking it.
No, don't.
It's a world premiere, you know, my baby's going out into the open.
How does that actually feel like? Something you've had so long, what does it feel like to be, it's like exposing it to the world?
It is, it is exhilarating, there's no denying that, but you just don't know how people are going to take to it, and when you've spent so much time working it, because I edited it as well, so literally I have lived with this film for the past 10 months, and then it all boils down to this 1 hour and a half in a screen with people as to what might happen next.
Do you get advice from other people before you showcase the film?
In what way do you mean? So like for where to play it, or
like no, as in like when it comes to like if it's like good or bad?
Oh yeah, I've shown it to. We had a cast and crew screening as well, which they liked it, so that's good. Or they're just very polite. When I was doing the editing process, I would show it to people that I know wouldn't just give me lip service. My brother being one of those people, he is both one of my biggest supporters, but fiercest critics. So I knew if I showed it to him, he would tell me this doesn't work, that doesn't work. And the feedback he gave me, a lot of it ended up working its way into the film and made it better for it. So yeah, I do recognise that when you're one person, when you've written it, when you've directed it, when you've edited it, it becomes very difficult to let go of certain bits. So I'd like to get people to give me their genuinely honest feedback, so I know what just needs to be jettisoned, because it's hard to take stuff out.
I can completely understand that. When it comes to the film, how did you think of the idea? How did it all come about?
So it came about in 2022. I had a conversation with a fellow FrightFester in the after hours in the Phoenix. We'd seen 2 films that day which both featured the game, and he was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if you could never have that game but with something like a film, the film Cheap Thrills, where it's all about escalation. And I thought that sounded really cool, but Never Have I Ever is all about the past. It's all about stuff you have done, and that's difficult to escalate, but the idea just stuck with me. So went home for FrightFest that year and wrote a script in about a week. It's not the finished one, but it gave me the bones of the film. A lot of it is still in there because I wanted to find a way of how do you escalate the past, and I hope that's what we've done. And then watching Law last year, which is a film by James Bush, it's an anthology which Andrew was in. I just looked at him and that is the guy. When I saw his segment, I was like, that's my leading man. I hadn't thought about the film for months. Contacted him. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. He liked the script. He was in from the beginning. He was the first person on board. And he said to me, and this was at the beginning of September, I'm free at the beginning of December. My DP was also happened to be free that same week. So I was like, well, I don't have money. I don't have a cast. I don't have a crew. I've got just under 3 months to do this. Why not? And so yeah, but you know, if there's a will, there's a way, and we got it together. We made it. We shot it in 8 days. So, yeah.
So let's talk about Mutilator 2. Obviously, I love a slasher. What can fans expect from the sequel?
More of the same, only better. In a sense, it's a throwback. It's the same style movie as Mutilator, practical effects, which the fans have told me they like better than CGI, and that's what we give them. we kill people in terrible ways and splash a lot of blood around. But there's some humor in this one, a little more humor than in the last one. I think some people get a really good belly laugh out of it.
So I've actually always wanted to ask this question, but obviously you're writer, director and producer. What would you say is the most challenging role out of all three, and what would you say is the funnest role out of those three? It's a hard one, and it's just always something I've always wanted to ask.
Let me answer that backwards. The worst thing about it is seeking distribution. Producing is good if you can get your hands on the money. Writing is the most liberating, I think, because you control everything. It's in your mind and in your pencil, and you can just make anything happen. The actual directing is very interesting. It's more work because you have deadlines. I mean, it's more work. At the same time, someone got Patrick Duncan, who batted cleanup on the editing process, quoted a friend of his from Hollywood. I don't remember the friend's name, but he said 95% of good directing is good casting, and that was really true in this movie. The talent they cast in this crew was unbelievable. They showed up, they were professionals, they came up with their own stuff. They would do things and say lines that were not in the screenplay that were better than what was in the screenplay and were true to what the character would do and say. I just can't say enough. The directing on this thing was a breeze. I just sat back and watched the actors do their thing.
About your film, how did you come about writing the film and then directing it? What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, I had spent some years making shorts, and I wanted to do my first feature, but I knew I needed to be creative to make it happen because my budget was going to be so low. So I came up with the idea of an anthology because I wanted to shoot it in segments, like, film here, 2 months later we go somewhere else, and so on. I ended up meeting a producer and a whole team of investors who really upped the budget, and it was funny because we ended up having way more resources than I ever imagined. But there was still this low budget mindset where we were filming in the segments, and it was just an interesting balance. We had my sister was the set medic, my mom did all the craft services. It was a family affair.
When it came to casting, how did you find the perfect cast? I mean, you had an American Horror Story legend.
Yes, I know. Naomi is fantastic. I would work with her again in a heartbeat. We started with a wish list for the cast. Samantha Robinson was high on my list, and we got her, which is a blessing. Nancy Loomis, I thought had retired from acting, so I didn't even have her in mind. And then Naomi's manager said, "Hey, I know Nancy. What if I send her the script?" And we were all like, "Yes, please." And obviously, when she said yes, it felt like a miracle. Changed my life. And I love Nancy. She's fabulous. And we have Zoe Luna from The Craft Legacy, another up-and-coming horror actress.
I know, obviously, it's a spooky film. Did you have any real-life spooky experiences on set?
Oh, on set? We stayed in a Victorian bed and breakfast, and I did feel a few times they told me that upstairs hallway's haunted, and I have the bedroom right off the hall. So there were a few times where I thought, is something gonna happen? But I told the ghosts, I need to work tomorrow. Please go easy on me.
So tell me, how did you get involved in this project?
So I actually saw Damon, our director, put up a casting call on IMDb Pro for a different film entirely. I auditioned for it, and then he got back to me and was like, "I recognise you from the horror community because I've done some horror before." And he was like, "That film's taking a pause, but I have this script I think you'd be perfect for." Sent me it, and here we are.
So if you can sum up your character in 3 words, how would you sum her up?
Troubled. Troubled, sad, and maybe numb. Been in between all the troubled and sadness.
What would you like audience to take away from this? Sorry. What would you like audience to take away from this?
I was saying to a couple of other people, I think
it's one of those films that maybe doesn't end positively, but I think it's a really important point on grief and if you're suffering, and if anything I'd like people to take away that there's always help, and that if you have experienced grief and it does feel debilitating like it did for Mara, that there's always help and there's always someone that can, you know, assist in that, and it doesn't need to get as severe as it did for her.
If in the horror genre, if you could choose any franchise to be in, which one would you be in? You need some help, I can help. I've had loads of tips this week.
Go on, give me some tips.
The Purge, there's Final Destination, Scream, Friday the 13th, Halloween. I feel like I'm in that Scream when Hayden Panettiere is like naming all these for horror films.
Do you know, I wouldn't say The Purge because I hate masks personally, they terrify me. Although maybe if I was playing like an evil character, that would be, if I was behind the mask. But I think maybe Scream, although we've recently had a resurgence, I feel like with the last few, so maybe like Halloween or something like that. Yeah, or Hostel if they did like another one, because that's disgusting. But I feel like, yeah, or Saw. Yeah, very gory, very bloody, very gross. I think maybe one of those.
About this film, obviously you're acting in the film. What was it like acting in this film for you? And why did you choose this project?
I chose the project because Kent and Jeff casted me in the project. So I got very lucky in that way. And acting in the film, I felt extremely challenged because I'm surrounded by super talented character actors. And I more come from the stand-up comedy world. Like, I'm on stage a lot, live theater, which I love being in London for. So I was just really challenged as a film actress on this project. And I think it just helped me continue to get more roles, which is fun.
And when it comes to looking for actors, what do you look for in an actor or an actress?
Well, I mean, I must say that Jeff was the one that actually picked the actors most of it, but both because he knows what they can do more, and also he knew what he was looking for. So he was definitely doing that. But then after he sort of picked them and approached them, we sort of talked about it together, and then we made it happen. Yeah.
What would you say was the highlight of doing this film? I know we spoke about challenging moments, but would you say the highlight?
I would say the highlight in a way was actually, obviously there was two highlights. To be in Mexico, first of all, because that was so scary. That was a highlight. And also when we kind of started with the special effects, when as we talked about before, all the blood and all the sort of gallons of blood that was poured over us in a cold climate. It was so cold, it was horrible. But that was kind of fun because there was a lot of people that died the same day, kind of, or in a couple of days.
I don't believe. How is it cold in Mexico and LA?
Oh, that was in LA.
Is LA cold?
In Mexico, when you stay there,
it can be really cold.
Because it's a desert, and deserts gets really cold.
Oh, of course.
No, but when people died, we pretend that it was in Mexico, but it was actually when everybody died was over Pasadena, Altadena up there. So, but it was freezing cold, and the blood is also cold. So when they pour that over, it's horrible. But that was also fun.
What was your highlight?
I think my highlight has definitely been watching the process of a small indie film go so far. And I got to see and hear conversations between Jeff and Kent, and got to see this project basically from start to finish. And so I think that's very inspiring, especially to indie filmmakers, of where a film can go.
How did this come about? This film. How did you think about doing this film and yourself? How did you get involved in it?
Well, we worked together on a film that I made a few years ago called Manfish, and then Members Club is my second feature. I started writing it, and I wrote the lead character for Dean, and it's about some male strippers who go to a working men's club, and then horror ensues. And we thought for a very long time we were going to be making it for absolute peanuts. We managed to get a production company on board called Blackwater Pictures. They looked after the film, they championed it, and they gave us a bit of cash. So it meant that we were able to make a much bigger and better film than we ever planned to. And then it kind of just snowballed from there, really. We spent a few months in pre-production. I think we had about a 5-week shoot in March, April 2023, and then we completed the film in February 2024. So here we are.
For anyone that wants to become an actor, what would you give as advice to learn lines, the best way to learn lines?
Oh, I'm still trying to work that out myself, actually. To be honest, it's simple, hard work. You got to take the knocks because there's going to be loads of rejections, and you got to believe in yourself. I mean, I started probably 20 years ago, and the last 5 years I'm doing quite a lot of work. It took me a long time. It's 15 years I could have easily given up, and probably did sometimes in my head. But you just got to believe in yourself and just meet some nice people who believe in you, give you good roles, and just enjoy it and hope you get more. But yeah, you just got to be prepared to work, to be honest.
What would you say highs and lows were whilst filming? And for yourself, could be from pre-production to post-production.
The highs and lows of the entire production.
For you, yeah, and then I guess for you filming, set-wise. Unless you did.
For me, it's a simple thing of I love being on set. I feel like I'm alive when I'm on set. It's all I've ever wanted to do as a kid, entertain. So when it's all over, it does feel I feel very sad. It's come to an end. So that's, to me, that's the lows. There's no lows when I'm filming. It's all good fun. It's like a grown man playing. I'm actually a grown man, believe it or not. And I love to play, have fun. That's very sad when it comes to an end, and you hope there's going to be more times like that. So that's for me.
What about yourself?
It's a good point, actually, because I think there's always highs and lows with filmmaking, and it can change like every minute. I think the high is always just being able to make films and being able to get a cast together and get a crew together and being able to make something. And then there'll be a low every 30 minutes where that you've got to try and overcome, and something will go wrong. But as bad as it always gets, it's still the best job in the world, and I love every minute of it. So yeah, it's just a constant roller coaster of pain.
So Cinderella's Curse, how did you get involved in it?
Well, I have worked with the production company and the director on various different projects, and I was actually in Cannes Film Festival at a villa party, as you do, celebrating just some, the life in the film industry. I got a text message offering me the role. They obviously must have seen an evil quality in me. I'll be good for that. And I was with the girl who plays Cinderella and the fairy godmother. We were all there together. And I just got off. So have I. And, are we all going to do Cinderella's Curse? And we were like, yeah. We had another shot of tequila probably. And then the next day, we were a bit hungover, getting ready to fly home, and somehow it had gone viral in the news. I think it had gone on IMDb, and all our profiles were shared. So yeah, the hype was pretty much there from the get-go. People obviously wanted to see Cinderella getting, I can't say effed up.
Tell me more about your character. I know you're the evil stepmom, so tell me, how did you get into that role? Obviously, we've all seen the classic fairy tale film from Disney, so did you get inspiration from that, or did you completely twist it yourself?
I obviously took inspiration from that because that's what people who are going into it will be familiar with. But there was a lot of working with the other actors. We all had ideas for our character, and when you actually get onto the set, which was this incredible castle up in Scotland, it was so creepy, and the ideas as we came, we were workshopping the character, and I'm not going to say too much, but when you read it, you've got to get yourself into the mind frame of somebody who would carry out some of these evil acts. And obviously the Brothers Grimm tale, it isn't a fairy tale, so we kind of lean into that element as well from the original story. So
without giving anything away, what was your favourite scene to film?
The one where I whip the housemaid. Sorry, it was so evil and so brutal, and I know it's a bit gross, but it was a lot of fun to play, because obviously we're all friends behind the scenes, but it was so gory, and getting into that, where I get them all to come and am I allowed to say what happens? No.
Maybe no.
No, don't say what happens, but there's a certain scene, you'll know when you watch it. But yeah, it's pretty dark, but yeah, it was, I think that came out on film really, really well. So the scene where we do something to the housemaid, saying no more.
So how did you get involved in this project, Cara?
Right, okay, so through a wonderful friend of mine, Michaela Longdon, who was also in the film and was casting director on it, she gave me a shout to see if I was interested. I got the script, loved the script, and initially I was up for one role, went up, did the audition, and then kind of wandered back into Manchester to have a beer and a kind of nice bit of food, and then got a call to say, can you come back up? You're not left, have you? So I went back up, and then I read for this role. So I had about a half an hour to prepare, and then just rinsed it. And the next thing, the rest is history. I got offered the lead role. Yeah.
So for people that are wanting to go see this, how would you sum this up in a synopsis?
Right. Okay. So it is a very dark, relentless, caustic, hard story that is unrelenting in what it embraces, and it is a bleak film, but you know, I'm all about portraying those type of characters on film, and you know, we don't know who might be sitting beside us on the tube or the bus, and we don't know what type of lives that they might be living. It could be living the life of the character I portrayed. So for that, it's a joy of a thing to get. But I think this type of film is, it's unrelenting. I don't want to say it's unrelenting in its bleakness, but it's a dark film. It's unrelenting in its darkness.
So about this film, tell me more about it, how you guys got involved in it.
Well, we both worked with Jeff in the past. I've known him for many years. We've been friends. We did live theater together and comedy shows, and then I did a couple projects with him. I've done work with Robin as well, and he just sort of brought us all together, as well as some of the other casts that we've all worked together multiple times. So that's a good feeling, you know, and we're happy to be part of it.
We actually did a pilot not long ago, or actually kind of long ago.
A while back.
That gets a little exposure in this film as well.
Yeah, that's right. Some of the footage from a pilot that Jeff shot that we were involved in is incorporated into this movie. So, yeah.
Layers.
Yeah, layers.
What would you say was the best scene to have filmed on this project?
The best thing?
Best scene.
Oh, the best scene. Well, my joke answer was going to be the Duravage scenes, of course. But there's so much action. There's so many. That's a hard question. There's so many great scenes. Jeff's character is intense the whole way through. The creature shows up. Can we say that?
I don't know. I was going to say there's so many things, but I don't want to give anything away.
Something happens, and it's amazing. I can't pick one. It's just there's a lot going on, and it's really fun.
So how did you think about doing this film? Where did the idea come from?
It's always a very hard question. It comes from a whole variety of interests and topics that over an amount of time form together into, God, this could be a really cool film. I'd love to make it sound more exciting, like, you know, a muse shot on my head, but it's just something that developed over time into something I had to do. You know, as I know I need to tell this story, I'm desperate to tell this story, and this is how it happened.
When it came to like casting, how did you know who would be the perfect cast for this?
There were one or two people that I knew I wanted in it. Donna, who plays Jaidyn, she was one I chose before. Laurence, Harvey, I spoke to on the phone because I wrote the part for him. And James Dreyfus as well. With actual general casting, Michaela was my casting director. She got self-tapes in, and we held auditions. And that was really tight. There was a wealth of riches with the actors, but I mean, we were absolutely blessed with the ones we got.
So for anyone that's aspiring to like make films, either be a writer, director, producer, what 3 tips would you give them?
Find a story you have to tell. Don't want to have to. And there's only one other thing. Don't stop. Don't quit. Because the only way you'll definitely fail is if you give up. So just don't. I mean, it took me donkey's years to get this made, but just don't stop, because it is worth it. It's a huge amount of work and everything else that goes with it, but it's brilliant. So don't deny yourself. Do it.
Tell me about the costume. What was it hard to do? As in, when obviously you get told to make something, but does it align with the director? Was there loads of changes during that?
So at this particular film, the idea of it came up pretty quickly. So Jeff really had a vision for it and wanted to make that happen quickly. So what we actually did was work with the cast, had them bring a lot of things of their own. So they're all very character-driven character actors. And so we grabbed and pulled some things that we knew would fit with the script, and then they brought their own items too, and they were super excited what we bought. We were super excited by what they brought, and we developed some really cool characters with the costumes.
We wanted them to like help embody their own characters and really be a part of that process. So by them having a say in what they're wearing, you know, they could feel more comfortable and acting and things like that.
When it comes to continuity and clothes, obviously you'll have to take loads of photos. Is it like you've got pictures of them on a wall and you're like, does everything need to be completely perfect if you are going back to redo shoots?
So this film actually, with the budget and how Jeff made it, there was not a lot of shooting days, so there wasn't a lot of need for continuity because things would happen and then suddenly there would be blood all over an actor because it's a gory horror movie. So a lot of the times we didn't have to worry about continuity, and kind of just like things would sometimes disintegrate because of the blood and a lot of action and ripping and tearing. So,
and the things that we knew that we're going to have to repeat on several days, we had multiples of, so that helped a lot too.
So tell me how you guys got involved in this project.
So I actually worked with the people that kind of made this before on some other like horror films and stuff. So the role they asked me if I wanted the role basically that I've got, and I was like, yeah, of course, it's Cinderella. I'm super excited. I'd already seen it in like a few like articles and stuff online, so I was already really excited for it. But then getting to be a part of it, obviously, that's even better. So yeah.
Yeah, similar. I worked with the production company on previous projects, and I was actually just rapping on one of them when I got the message about asking, and it was like, oh, do you fancy playing an evil stepsister? And I was just like, absolutely, like any other stupid questions.
So what would you say, without giving anything away, what's your favourite scene to have filmed in the film?
Oh gosh, I always really liked everything that me and Hannah Tash did together, because we had to like be quite creepily synchronized, and it was really fun leaning into that, because we never really sort of like planned it too much either, did we? It just kind of like happened, and we were like turning our heads the same way and like almost becoming like a unified thing, and it felt really creepy when we were doing it, and it was just quite fun.
My favourite scene, I agree with that. That was really cool and strange, but cool. My favourite scene is probably one of the ones that's kind of like around the dinner table. Obviously, I won't say too much, but there's a scene around the dinner table involving a sausage, and I got so much stick about that for days because my line is literally sausage, and the camera crew and everyone just gave me stick for literally weeks about it. I still get messages now saying sausage. So yeah, sausage all the time. So yeah, probably that one.
If there was another Disney film you could turn into a horror film, what would it be? Shall I start with?
Okay. A Disney film. Beauty and the Beast, probably. That's my favourite Disney film of all time.
Yeah.
So probably that.
I mean, it would be so expensive to make, but The Little Mermaid, I think, would be pretty cool.
That would be so sick.
Yeah.
I think I've heard they might be making a Little Mermaid one.
Okay, well, you know.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe we could audition for Sebastian and Flanders.
Oh my god, that would be so good. Yes, we should do that. That would be so funny.